Good evening, race fans. It's Tuesday, and that means it's time for the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Championship, round 5 at the world-famous Laguna Seca circuit. Our drivers are just about to begin their hot laps on what is quite a temperate track here, Laguna Seca, in the California desert. 67 degrees Fahrenheit, the current track temperature, 60 degrees ambient temperature. That's going to be in the sort of late teens in terms of Celsius, and it may just get a little bit warmer into the race session, but at the moment track temperatures are remarkably low compared to what you're usually used to around this track. Just coming out of a practice session, looks as though the console is looking very good in terms of his form, but definitely going to come under some stiff competition when these laps start to come in inside the qualification session. So 20 minutes worth of qualifying and then 45 minutes worth of action around this circuit. We've got nothing but clear weather forecast for today, so no rain or barely even a chance of clouds, it seems. But Giacomo currently topping out the table so far. Stoltz looks as though he's just set a lap, and Luke has just come in with a 1:32.7. That looks a little bit closer to the sort of times that we'd be expecting here, but we'll wait and see what it comes down to. Looks as though Alaxon also coming in with a 1:32.550. Casey Redwood also setting a time, 1:33.9. Let's see whether or not he can get a decent finish in today's race. I'm missing a driver in today's race. Survivor unable to make it, so he's going to be missing out on some points. And there he goes, the console with a 1:29.556. That's 561, should I say. That's more like what we'd expect. And J46 Dyson as well, coming in just a couple of tenths later than him. Let's have a flip over to the pink Actual Vision car of the console at the moment. Current championship leader by quite a margin. He's got 54 points in the championship, ahead of Jack Demenzies, who's his closest rival in second place. J46 Dyson not too far away though, on 62 points away from the console, and a couple of good finishes. Who knows what can happen in the second half of this season. Of course, 8 rounds set for the season, so we're just stepping into the second half of the season now in race 5. And as ever, please let me know what your predictions are for this one. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a firm following of Giacomo. There always seems to be on our stream, so welcome to the Giacomo mob. But I'm also sure as well that Big Al is going to be rooting for the console. I'm pretty sure Lucy Axon's probably sitting in the wings cheering on Al. Fast AF Gamers joining us on the stream as well. Good evening to you, mate. All set for some rubbing around the Laguna Seca circuit. Really fan favourite usually. It promises to provide some pretty close action. The fast boys are really going to be running alongside each other. However, look at that time from the console, 1:28.530. Looks as though he's on fine fettle this evening. And pink cars go faster if you ever speak to him. He's just about to encounter some traffic. Let's have a look at Dyson at the moment in the Monster Energy livery. Running pretty well in some clear air at the moment, so looking like he's going to have a good chance to put in a good lap. But J46 Dyson has as well just set the fastest first sector. Not by much, but he has gone purple in that with a 30.945, so we'll wait and see what his second sector time looks like. It looks as though it may make an improvement, although he does just get onto the dirt there. Did he manage to keep those inside tyres within the track limits? We'll have to wait and see as he comes up to the brake-in for the corkscrew. Heavy onto the brakes, throw it down, maybe in second gear, then in third over the peak of the crest as we just catch a glimpse of Green Gaming's BMW there, parked up at the top of the tyre wall, at the top of the corkscrew. Really been struggling in that BMW, it seems, throughout the practice session, and we'll have to wait and see whether or not the Canadian can get a little grasp on the circuit and the car. J46 Dyson though comes across the line and 1:29.260. Still not enough to try and challenge the console. Sticks it out for another one though. He's got 10 litres worth of fuel still in the tank. And the console joining us from the pit lane as well, it seems, feeling confident enough in his lap time that he can jump onto the YouTube stream and say hello to his adoring fans. Kovkar's also looking pretty steady with this one. Currently in third place, so the front position on the second row, and it's surprising me how far apart the drivers currently are in terms of their pace on this one. Looks as though the console and J46 Dyson appear to be setting their own sort of lap times compared to the rest of the field. This time around, doesn't look as though J46 Dyson's going to cut it. His first sector's lacking a little bit. So let's have a look over to Kovkar in that number 20 PCCF car. Kovkar has bags of experience in the touring cars from the former Rubbins Racing days. He'll be looking to try and capture some of that form that he used to have within that championship. However, it's not really come to fruition just yet. Finds himself in 6th place in the championship standings. 77 points at the moment, wedged between Stoltz 44 and All You 82 at the moment in 5th and 7th place respectively. But still not too far away, I suppose, from the podium sitters inside the championship. Jack de Menzies has just come out with a stonking lap though to take 3rd position on the grid. 1.39 seconds behind the console at the moment, and that puts him a couple of tenths ahead of Kovkar, who we're currently tracking around. Looks as though the console's since returned to track. Let's have a look at the moment. So tyres are cold, as we can see in the top right hand side of the corner of the screen. Let's bring up the speedo and let's have a look at how he manages to take through this next lap. We'll also jump into the cockpit of him as he comes around the start finish line and have a little ride on board with the console. So if you're not familiar with Laguna Seca, here it starts underneath the bridge. So there's the start finish line. You're going to want to keep your foot planted right up until you dare to start to brake. It's going to be braking hard from 5th, maybe even 6th gear down into 2nd, around that double left-hand sider, all the way onto the left-hand side of the track now, dip into 3rd and throw it in for this right-hander. Try and make sure that your rear end stays in check. And then this 4th is generally just a little bit of a lift. We can just see a little bit of trail braking there from the console, just to try and keep his car in check. Into 5th gear, and this is going to be down to either 3rd or 4th, depending on how you take it. Down to 3rd for the console, and that gives you the revs up the hill. Now this next corner is one of the trickiest to try and take right. It's going to be remaining in 4th gear, a little lift and a tiny touch of braking from the console. Throws it in left at the ideal time, and then it's all the way up the hill to the corkscrew. Brake as late as you dare. It's going to be down into 2nd and then into 3rd at the top of the apex, as we see him do perfectly to my command there. All the way onto the right hand side into 4th with a little lift and a throw in, and then this one is either 4th, maybe even 5th gear, depending on who you are and how much you want to step it out, and that is perfect from the console. Into this final hairpin, and it's down into 2nd gear. 2 different lines that you can take from that one. It can be an overtaking point, but that is a great lap from the console. Not going to be one of his best ones, but we'll jump back into trackside and get rid of the speedo as he gives us a perfect run through of how to take it. Let's have a look at the rest of our drivers. 9 minutes, or just shy of 9 minutes remaining inside the session. Looks as though Green Gaming still struggling inside that BMW. Old Smokey is not too far away from TTV Giacomo at the moment. Giacomo seems to be struggling as well for his pace. Not yet to break into the 131, so we'll have to wait and see how that one progresses. T-Scott also appears to be struggling a little bit just inside the 131s, but he's got Casey Redwood, Luke Snipes and Stoltz for company in that little pack, so they can be expected to group together on when it comes to race time, provided that they can hold it on. And then it looks as though we've got a 129 crew from 5th all the way up to 1st position, with the exception of the console, who's just breaking into the 128.288. That is definitely not going to be a race time, that is definitely a qualification time. So we jump over now to J46 Dyson, currently 2nd on the grid. Not setting any purple sectors from what I can see on the telemetry at the moment. T-Scott's making improvements, and Green Gaming is looking like he's going to make an improvement in this lap around, so good to see there. He is currently 10.5 seconds off the pace though, Green Gaming, so this might bring him a little bit closer to his rivals. Have to wait and see how it progresses through Sector 3. And there he goes, he's managed to take off a couple of seconds, still 4 seconds away from the nearest rival of Old Smoky though. And we'll keep an eye out on the rest of them. Looks as though Stoltz is making improvements in his first sector. 31.320 from Stoltz at the moment. In fact, let's have a look at Stoltz in the number 16 eMotorsports. Just on his way up now to the corkscrew. Let's see how he manages this one. Late into the brakes. That looks to be a perfect line from there, so he's got a good drive through, and his sector time is showing it as well. He's gone green in Sector 2. He's not anywhere near the purples yet, but this is going to be a big improvement provided that he can get it all the way home in the third sector. Also nails that penultimate corner. Here we're riding it out into the second. A few drivers will be tempted to go into first, but you only want to do that if you're making a mistake, and he comes across the line. And it's a no jump from Stoltz. He remains in 7th place and returns to the pits once again. Now we're tracking around Al Axon, or All You 82, in the number 11 Air Bubbles livery. Just about to begin yet another lap. J46 Dyson getting a purple in Sector 1 that last lap around. It looks as though Sector 2 and Sector 3 actually let him down a little bit, which is why we haven't seen a vast improvement. Getting ever closer though in these sectors, so long as he can wrap them together. Jack Demenzi's also going purple in Sector 1, so beating that original purple time from J46 Tyson. 30.770 now in Sector 1. In fact, let's have a look over to Jack Demenzi's at the moment. Meanwhile, Giacomo has managed to find himself all the way up into 4th position, so good running from him. I was expecting to see those improvements, and a 129.564 is enough for second row at the moment from Giacomo. Currently tracking around the green livery of Jack Demenzi's though, the number 4 Zavima. He's purple in Sector 1, but Sector 2 looks as though it's fallen away from him ever so slightly. Let's see what he can do in Sector 3 to try and make up from it. He's not too far. It looks as though he was about 3/10 off the best Sector 2 time. So in Sector 3 you might be able to see some improvement. Maybe see him up onto the second row. Comes across the line then. And no change it seems. So he stays out. He's got 9 litres worth of fuel to go. So should be enough for the remainder of this session with 4 minutes and 40 seconds left to go. Kovkarl in the pits at the moment, so is Stoltz, along with Old Smoky, and then myself as well in 14th place. So an outlap around here is going to be around about 1 minute and 50 seconds. It's actually quite a slow pit exit from this circuit. It's also, for those of you that haven't driven it before, very tricky entrance into the pits. You actually break away before the final 90-degree corner, and the breakaway, the turning left, is perfectly fine. However, you've got to hit the brakes very early and really throw the car in left to get into the pit lane. Pit exit also pretty tricky as well. You don't want to be crossing the lines. You've got to wait until after the first corner before you join. And it also throws you up just into the position where cars will be moving across ready for turn 3. You've got to be fully witted on your way out of the pits, and also have your eyes engaged for anybody leaving, just if you are coming around that turn 3. Jack Demenzi's then just about to cross the line. It's not going to be an improvement, I don't think, unless it was a blistering third sector. Let's have a look. Comes across the line, no improvement there from him. Let's have a look over to Giacomo then in the 87 Monster Energy. Just waiting for his first sector time to be posted. It looks as though he's miles off. In fact, looking at his tyres, I beg your pardon, he's miles off because this is actually an outlap. We'll come back to TTV Giacomo. Look over to Luke Snipes then. Not seen much of him so far in the 25 Hakeem. Looks as though he's losing a lot of time at the moment in Sector 1. In fact, again, it looks as though he's on an outlap. So apologies for that. Keep on flipping over to the drivers out on their outlaps here. But he is just about to start a new one, so we'll stick with him. 2 minutes and 25 seconds remaining inside the session. So whilst I've got a couple of minutes as we check out how the sector times progress with Luke Snipes at the moment, let me remind you about everything that's going on in Flux Motorsport this week, week 5 should I say. And after tonight's race, you'll be able to check out all of the details from the GT1 race 5 around Fuji GP. That's going to be a very tricky one indeed to try and get those cars all the way to the end without any incidents. So you'll be able to check out the race from Lecky 2000 on that one, uploaded to our YouTube. Unfortunately not live, but make sure that you hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss out on that one when it's finally ready. The Dubai Autodrome race is now up and ready for your viewing pleasure. We're just waiting for the latest race at Watkins Glen to be live and ready for you. Then on Saturday comes the turn of the LMPs, not currently broadcast, but they're hitting up Silverstone this week. That's going to be a mighty race for those very fast LMP cars. And then on Sunday, it's Sonoma time in the GT3s. You'll be able to join both myself and the console for that one live on YouTube from 8 o'clock in the evening, UK time. Please adjust depending on where in the world you're watching us. And 46 seconds remaining. It's this man on top of the championship, on top of pole position so far provisionally in the number 8 Octrol Vision car. It is the console, and it looks as though he's going to go for another clean sweep here today for the bonus point for pole position. He's going to be aiming for the race win and hoping to try and pick up the bonus point for fastest lap as well. I think we did some quick mathematics before the race, and at no point during the season is it going to be mathematically certain that the console will win it. So it will go all the way down to the edge, but he certainly has a large advantage here, and anything can happen in the final 4 races of the season, and he'll be very, very aware from that as well. So qualifying is now complete. It will be final laps indeed, and we can see the console absolutely hooning it around that one. Doesn't look as though it's going to be any improvements though. His sector times certainly aren't displaying this. Same with Giacomo, Jack Demenzi's, T-Scott, Green Gaming, all on a lap at the moment. None of them showing any green sector time, so that is it from the console. He takes first position. Go over to Giacomo at the moment. He's just on his way out of the corkscrew into the final 4 bends here. Looks as though Jack Demenzi's has actually gone green in sector 2, so small improvements there. He is about half a second off the pace in sector 1 though, so he's going to really struggle to make a fast improvement as Giacomo crosses the line. Not going to be an improvement from him either. 129.564, his best lap. Look over to Jack Demenzi's at the moment, currently residing in 5th place, so 3rd row. And he's going to have a lot of work to do into turn 1 if he's going to make it further up this field. Oh, in fact, he pulls in an absolute blinder there. Takes 3rd position on the grid. And it's a stonking final lap when the pressure was on. Over to all U82 at the moment. And we'll have to wait and see whether or not he made any improvements. I think he did. He has indeed. He's found himself all the way up into 4th place. So here is the final running order for tonight's race. It's the console up on pole position. J46 Dyson, as we expected, in 2nd position on that front row. But then Jack Demenzi is in the final lap, along with all U82. Found themselves in 3rd and 4th respectively. Fantastic end of qualifying for those 2 drivers. Then Kofkarl making up the 3rd row along with TTV Giacomo. Object in Mirror, or Object as I'll refer to him for the rest of the race, in 7th place with Stoltz in 8th on the 4th row. Luke Snipes in 9th place and Casey Redwood for company on the 5th row. And then T-Scott and Old Smoky in the 6th row, 11th and 12th, with Green Gaming right at the back of the pack. Unfortunate for him. Does look as though Old Smoky got a couple of places grid penalties, so that is going to cost him. That is probably for crossing over the pit lane exit, or it may well have been speeding inside the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see. So 2 minutes worth of tinker time begins now for the drivers. Let me know your predictions. Are we going to see another whitewash from the console, or are we going to see J46 Dyson and his number 82 Monster Energy car try and take this one? Jack Menzies in the number 4 Zavima. Keep an eye out on him coming up into turn 1. He'll be wanting to try and get past the console and make it very tricky for him to make any passes. All 82 did very well in the number 11 Air Bubbles livery. We'll have to wait and see whether or not he can make moves up into this race. Kovkarl in the number 20 PCEF car. Keep your eye out on him. He's a very competent driver, and he'll be looking to try and make as many points up as he can. TTV Giacomo in the 87 Monster Energy. Mid-pack here, but he's certainly got some pace in him. Then Object in the number 1 Momo. Nice and easy to spot. Stoltz in the number 16 4C Motorsports, with Luke Snipes in the number 25 Hakeem. Casey Redwood in the 62 Horbsner Automotive. And then T-Scott, teammates with Stoltz in the 17 4C. And then Green Gaming, the only BMW to remain in the touring cars. Going to have his work cut out indeed. And then Old Smoky, after those grid place penalties, finds himself all the way at the back of the grid in the number 55 Emochi. So 30 seconds remaining in tinker time. It's going to be a sprint down into turn 1. Although J46 Dyson is a car length back on the console, he does actually have the optimum line. The console's going to have to be very, very brave on the brakes to make sure that he holds up the inside. He's going to have to brake earlier unless he can move over to the right to take turn 1 on the optimum line. But here we are now, ready and waiting for the lights. Jump into the cockpit of Kovkarl to try and get a good view of what happens here. First lights under. And we're green at Laguna Seca. Looks as though it was J46 Dyson actually bogged down ever so slightly, and that's allowed Jack Menzies up through onto the outside. The console holding onto the inside line at the moment. And we come into turn 1 with a bit of contact. I think it was Green Gaming making contact with Luke Snipes, I believe, and that took Kovkarl out of the race. We see Green Gaming waiting as the rest of the cars rejoin the pack. Meanwhile, up front, the console and Jack Menzies currently going toe-to-toe here. Jack Menzies up on the inside. The console going round the outside. He is going to be able to get that drag all the way up. The console has got the inside line, and meanwhile J46 Dyson waiting in the wings to pick up any pieces, very nearly touching the two touring cars here, and we see a bit of a switchback there from Jack Menzies just to try and make it up. Certainly holding in to the back of the console at the moment. Big kick up of dust, but I don't think that's going to be a slowdown, so it's the console leading to Jack Menzies. J46 Dyson in 3rd, with TTV Giacomo doing very well to get himself up into 4th position. Only 82 in 5th, with Object in 6th, Casey Redwood in 7th, Old Smoky in 8th, Stoltz in 9th, T-Scott in 10th, Kovkarl in 11th, with Luke Snipes in 12th after that big contact caused, I think, by Green Gaming and his BMW. So a big bunched up pack here so far into the first lap. We'll wait and see what happens though. Big puff of smoke, it seems, from J46 Dyson, just cutting up the inside of that final turn. And it looks as though the console has got a bit of a drive. We've got Jack Menzies trying to hold on to the slipstream at the moment, making up as many yards as he can going into the braking of turn 1. We just see a little bit of corrective braking, I think, from Jack Menzies in 2nd place. He is running on a pad, so we just saw him hit the brakes and hit the brakes again, maybe just trying to balance that car ever so slightly. So as the front pack starts to level out, let's have a look what's going on in the back here. We've got Stoltz in 9th position, ahead of Kovkarl after Kovkarl got taken out, and then T-Scott in 11th place, his teammate, currently running, it seems, about 4, maybe even 5 car lengths behind, and we see a little move there by Stoltz up the inside. He thinks better of it again, so that is on Casey Redwood in the Hakkeen, I believe. Also, Kovkar's just having a little look up the inside here. He's going to be brave if he did it into the left-hander on the run up to the corkscrew. Thinks better of it. He's certainly not going to try anything going into the corkscrew. Let's jump back over to our front pack at the moment. So the console continues to lead. He's got less than a second ahead of Jack Menzies. J46 Dyson in third place, a couple of seconds back from the current leader, 1 second as well away from second place. And it looks as though Giacomo currently sat pretty comfortably in fourth place. He's got 3 seconds ahead of Object, his nearest rival, in fifth place. Go back over to this backpack, who seem to be really battling it out. That's Old Smoky in the Emochi, finished in last position, and we just see T-Scott there completely overshooting the Andretti hairpin, turn 1. I beg your pardon, it's classed as turn 2 on this circuit. Yeah, T-Scott is now going to come under pressure, I believe, from Luke Snipes if he isn't careful. And we see Kovkar there just trying to make inroads on Old Smoky at the moment. Barely anything in it. Work the way up turn 5, up the hill. Looks as though Kovkar has actually got the inside line coming up into turn 6. It looks as though he just has to ease off a little bit just to make sure he doesn't get his nose taken off by Old Smoky. Old Smoky manages to stick 9th position for now. Coming up to the braking of the corkscrew at the moment, and we're going to see a bit of a move coming into the next one. He's bumper to bumper with Old Smoky at the moment, and it looks as though Kovkar has been brave and got the move done. In fact, it looks as though Old Smoky is now going to come under pressure from T-Scott around the outside. Oh, and T-Scott gets a little bit too much of the outside, got spun out onto the dirt, and rejoins the track in 12th position. Did well to catch it and not complete a full spin there, the South African driver, but he does have to rejoin almost at the back of this pack. That is currently held up though by Green Gaming in 13th place. He's 7 seconds back from this current driver, so a little bit of breathing room now, and T-Scott just needs to build and maintain. So back over to the console, we can see he's only just managing to maintain that distance between him and second place. J46 Dyson has made a little bit of a gain, it seems, on Jack Menzies, but not by much. It's a couple of tenths at best, and we just see Jack there getting a little bit loose on the exit of turn 6. Out through the corkscrew, and it does look as though the console is perhaps just losing a little bit of time to Jack in this one. Looks as though Fast AF Gamer is rooting for the console on this one. He wants to see that clean sweep. Got to admit, it's been pretty deserved, but we do hope that somebody can maybe knock the console off his pedestal here in the touring cars. He's just appearing too good, it seems, for the rest of the field. Anything can happen though. 38 minutes worth of racing still to come here at Laguna Seca. And we just see a big lockup of smoke there from the console. That big lockup of smoke is probably going to result in a little bit of loss of traction, or at least momentum. And we can, it's not showing up in the split times as of yet. Doesn't look as though he's lost much momentum whatsoever, so maybe just riding the brakes right on the ragged edge. And Jack Menzies there gets it wrong out of turn 4, takes a big spin, and he has made a big contact as well with the wall, so we'll have to wait and see. Looks as though TCB Giacomo has just made it past him into third place, and we can see that front right hand side is battered from Jack Menzies. This is going to be a pit stop. You can tell by the way that the car is tracking left and right all over. He's struggling to contain it here. In fact, let's jump into the cockpit with him. You can see, just to try and go in a straight line, he's pointing about 30 degrees right. So this corkscrew is going to be very tricky indeed. Looks as though he does very, very well there, but you can just see how much wheel movement he's having to make just to maintain his car on track position. So this is going to be him ducking into the pits, I believe. You jump back in trackside, you'll see him cut over to the left-hand side, and let's see how he does into the braking here. It'll be very tricky. There's that right, throw it in left for the pit stop, and there is our first casualty of the day. So it's the console leading to J46 Dyson, TTV Giacomo, and then all U82 in 4th place. Object now moves up into 5th as Jack Demenzies comes into the pits, and Casey Redwood's also going to step it up. So it looked as though Jack Demenzies was actually a victim of his own demise there, just getting a little bit loose out of turn 4, I believe it is. It might be classed as turn 5, and it just... Nope. Beg your pardon, it is turn 4, just catching a little bit too much dirt maybe, and it just high-sided him, spat him across the track and collided with the wall. It was this turn in here, and just caught up too much, and he made contact on the right-hand side of that tyre wall. So flick back on over to our leader at the moment in that pink number 6. He's got 1.7 seconds ahead of his nearest rival, which is now J46 Dyson. Then we've got a whole 5 seconds back to TTV Giacomo. Running really well on this one, and he is in for a shout of a podium. Just bringing up the previous results, and I'm pretty sure that Giacomo would have his second podium if he manages to make it here today. Also got a podium around the Algarve circuit, which was round 2 here in the FMTC. And he's got around about a second to all U82 at the moment. In fact, let's have a look over to this one, because he is coming over for an increased bit of pressure from the number 11 of all U82. Giacomo will be keen for these points. We see a big lock-up on the left-hand side. Looks as though all U82 managed to avoid that, and that's going to see that gap close up even more. So we'll jump on board with all U82. Both drivers managing to utilise all the track. That's what we like to see. No brakes from Giacomo. Rides it all the way up to the left-hand side, and looks as though he managed to factor in just enough lift here. This is going to be a crucial turn, though. And it looks as though all U82's got the drive on him up the hill. It's going to be a tricky corner to overtake, but as long as he maintains his momentum, he might be able to get up the inside for the corkscrew. No, it looks as though all U82 is going to have to be patient as we go back on trackside. Have a look what can be done on the run up to the corkscrew. It's all about the drive out of this one. If you're going to make a move on your competitor, you don't want to be doing any dive bombs through there. It could be catastrophic for both of you. So it looks as though Jack Demenzies has since come out the pits. It was a lengthy pit stop. It's managed to put him right at the back of this pack. Currently riding in 13th, so extensive damage. Sees him fall 1 minute 17 back from the console. Looks as though a slowdown has maybe punished Giacomo there, and that allows all U82 up into 3rd position and an advantage towards that podium, with 34 minutes of the race remaining. Meanwhile, back here, we've got a bit of a battle going on between Luke Snipes in the number 25 Hakeem and Old Smoky in the eMotorsports Renault Megane. Just coming up to the end of lap 8 here. We'll have to wait and see how this one progresses. So just having a look, track temperatures are still quite low here, so I think most drivers will be able to manage the tyres. It all comes down to wear on this one. Quite a few high speed throwing corners, and it's going to be pretty tricky for him. Plenty of support going on for both the console, with Big Al showing a face here, and Ellie Mansell also rooting for Jack. I think both drivers looking like they're going to score decent in today's running. TTV Giacomo does look as though he just needs to try and hold his nerve here at the moment. It looks as though he's managing to build ever so slightly on Object in Mirror. We'll have to wait and see how this progresses through. So just having a look at the moment, the fastest lap is currently being held by the console, so that'll be enough for the clean sweep, provided that he can get it. It looks as though Luke Snipes and Old Smoky have since been able to get up to the back of T-Scott here. The driver's managing to make inroads, and if the console is listening to this one, Big Al has got some celebratory jammy dodgers ready and waiting. Whether or not they'll be waiting in 32 minutes, we'll have to wait and see. But that is definitely going to spur him on to go that little bit quicker, I'm sure of it. 1.8 seconds currently the lead ahead of J46 Dyson for the console. Just needs to keep it together at this point. We'll go back over to the leaders. Let's have a look how this one is. So this is J46 Dyson in the Monster Energy. And if we go into the cockpit, we can just see the console ahead coming around the penultimate right-hander here. Does look as though that is the back marker of Jack de Menzies at the moment that they're coming up on. So about to start lapping back markers, although it is going to be just the one. It looks as though Jack de Menzies is, what we're talking here, 24 seconds or so behind Green Gaming at the moment. That pit stop has really hurt his chances. Definitely looked as though he was going to be on for a podium, and he did everything right in the opening couple of laps here. Just a little mistake, and it cost him big after he hit the tyre wall hard. It looks as though T-Scott, South African driver, still coming under pressure from Luke Snipes here. Old Smoky has since fallen a little bit behind. I'm suspecting a bit of a mistake being made there. J46 Dyson is knocking on the door of that fastest lap. He's not too far away from it at all. In fact, J46 Dyson currently holds the purple Sector 2 and Sector 3 times. It's actually the console with such a drawn-out lead in Sector 1 on his purple Sector 1 that is currently getting him to hold on to that fastest lap at the moment. Well, it looks as though Object is coming under increased pressure from Kovkarl at the moment. Currently around about a second in it, but Kovkarl has been able to make up a fair bit of time in the last couple of laps. Jump into the cockpit of Kovkarl at the moment as he goes over the crest of the corkscrew there. Object, a relative newcomer to the Touring Car Championship, but doing very well indeed in his first outing. Certainly looks as though he's got plenty of pace to see him through. Managed a sixth in his debut in the touring cars, but just getting a little bit wrong there on the final corner, and that comes under more pressure now from Kovkarl as we see them cross the line for lap 11. Kovkarl making his presence known all over the mirrors there of Object, and it looks as though Kovkarl's going to try and make that cutback. Just goes in a little bit deep, misses that inside apex though, and he's just gone to try and stick in the slipstream. Might see a bit of a late dive here. No, it looks as though he corrects himself. I was going to say late dive into turn 4. We'll wait and see. This one's a bit of a crucial one. We've seen Kovkarl been able to get a great drive out of this one in previous ones. Runs nice and deep. Doesn't scrub much speed off, and we can see there the momentum's definitely with him. We'll probably see a little move to the inside, will we, into this tricky turn 5? Nope. Looks as though he holds his line and now holds up the inside for the corkscrew. He's going to get this one done, I think, as they drag up the straight. The road's going to kink right, but no, it looks as though Object just holding on to it. Great driving from these two. Very good awareness to have each other on track. Jump back into the onboard of Kovkarl at the moment. You can see that toe-to-toe sort of setup going on here at the moment. Object holding on to the inside line. We're going to see Kovkarl running deep. Does it ever so slightly, but doesn't make too much of a gain from it. Into turn 1, we see the little differences. It's a really tricky race between these two drivers. Both of them with different tactics through different sections of the course. I think Kovkarl's experience of racing on this one maybe just coming into a bit of his own. I think it's only a matter of time when he takes that position. Well, being here, we saw him. Oh, in fact, no. Object is more than equal to it. He's making his move up the inside or making his presence known. He's not going to have the drive to be able to do it this time, though. Oh, but a little bit of dirt ends up seeing Object just getting a little bit squirrely, and because he was so close, that allows Kovkarl to take the position back. Looks as though because of the contact, he gives the position back. Great sportsmanship there from Kovkarl. He knew that it was a tiny mistake being made by Object, and they started all off again with 26 minutes and 50 seconds remaining on the clock. Green Gaming, meanwhile, has been able to make inroads. We saw him at the back. He was previously, I think he was around about 17 seconds ahead of Jack de Menzies after Jack de Menzies came into the pits, but he has since overtaken Old Smoky. As we see, looks as though Object ended up getting a slowdown coming out 3 turns from the end, and we just see a flash of lights there from Kovkarl in acknowledgement for the safe move over. Let's jump over to Luke Snipes at the moment. He's currently chasing down T-Scott still. We've seen this battle going on for quite some time. Not able to make any inroads as of yet, but all of the drivers look to be making green sectors this time around, so improvements are being made, it seems, across the board. All except for Jack de Menzies, interestingly enough. Let's have a little look over to that car as we see him just in and amongst some traffic. Now, this will be under blue flags, it seems, but Jack de Menzies clearly has a lot of pace. You can see there, he was actually 12 or 13 seconds quicker than the guys that are running ahead of him, and they almost go 3 wide into the final bend. That would have been an absolute nightmare. That is the console also taking over these other drivers. That's Green Gaming in the BMW, Jack de Menzies, and Old Smoky in the eMotorsport. Jack de Menzies has to fall back in line. He's now going to try and chase down Green Gaming into turn 2. He's going to have to just try and make sure he keeps his nose clean here. And it looks as though it's job done there. He had plenty of pace ahead of the other drivers in terms of his lap times, but he just has to try and unlap himself as cleanly as possible from the console. He now moves himself up into 11th place, and that sees Green Gaming in 12th, who's just behind him with Old Smoky in 13th. Back onto the battle between Kovkarl and Object at the moment. That looks as though that is still back on. I wonder whether or not a slowdown penalty just slowed Kovkarl down ever so slightly, and Object has now moved in within a second. 24 minutes and 30 seconds remaining inside this race, and you've got to admit that outside of first and second, it could really go anywhere. That being said as well, all it takes is a mistake from the console of J46 Dyson, and anything can happen. We might see this race open right up to any of the other drivers behind them. So the tete-a-tete between Object and Kovkarl continues. Does look as though we've got a bit of action going on between Green Gaming and Old Smoky here. Old Smoky in the blue, yellow and black Emochi Renault. Green Gaming in the 27 Horbsner Automotive BMW. And that is it's TTV Giacomo that we can see just behind them coming up to lap them. We see Old Smoky moving out the way nice and comfortably. Also does Green Gaming as well. Little flash of lights in acknowledgement there from Giacomo. In fact, I beg your pardon, that is J46 Dyson running in the same livery. I was thinking then, my timing boards weren't looking quite correct yet. Beg your pardon, Giacomo is around about 18 seconds behind this current driver. Back over to Kovkarl and Object. They're still continuing to duke it out. 23 minutes remaining inside the race, and they're fighting hard for 5th position. So 5th place is worth 23 points, don't forget, compared to 6th place, which is 20 points. So it's one of those 3-point jumps. So fighting hard for this position definitely pays dividends. And it looks as though we may have had a mistake from the console. We've just got a little flash up there that J46 Dyson is now within the 1.5 second margin. You can see the rear tyres of these Renaults really struggle to get heat into them. That shouldn't matter too much, just provided they don't both go a dark shade of blue. That is going to want to make the rear step out through some of these high-speed corners. It looks as though the console is just reacting to this. As I bring up the sector times, it looks as though he's really put the hammer down in sector 1 here. It's not yet registered, but as soon as it does, we'll bring it up, and we can see there the 11th place of Jack de Menzies just ahead of them. Sector times come in, and it looks as though Dyson actually went quicker this sector around by around about 1/10 or 1.5 tenths almost. So J46 Dyson is definitely putting on the pressure. Scotsman's not had much luck in his other championships, but he's certainly making the touring cars work for him. Currently sat in 3rd in the championships, and this is going to help him in his quest to leapfrog over Jack de Menzies. Definitely, unless Jack de Menzies can make up some serious places, which looks very much unlikely. And I just saw a bit of a dip over with TTV Giacomo and Kovkarl at the moment. Looks as though Giacomo's made a mistake, and that's allowed Kovkarl to come on through. He's currently challenging around the outside into the braking of the corkscrew. He's not going to be able to get that one done, but I think Giacomo's maybe had a little bit of a twitchy bum moment there, and he's going to have to try and go defensive now under the very experienced Kovkarl, who looks around the outside to try and take the inside into the penultimate bend. And it looks as though he's got that move done. He puts too much pressure onto Giacomo, pushes him out onto the dirt. Giacomo is holding up onto the inside line, brakes very late indeed, and just scrubs off all of that speed. That allows Kovkarl through into 4th position. Great recovery drive from Kovkarl after we saw a big contact in turn 1, lap 1. And Object is also now going to challenge Giacomo. So what was looking like a podium, as we see a bit of a dive bomb there, the contact comes together, and that is going to have to be relinquished to Giacomo. We see the lights come on there from Kovkarl. Not impressed, but Giacomo gives the position back. It was a bit daring, but a little bit too much risk for reward there from Giacomo. That might well see him in the box with the stewards. Have to wait and see though. So with 19 minutes remaining of this one, let me just remind you that if you're watching this, if you're a fan of everything that we do here at Flux Motorsport, then please do leave a comment within the section if you're not watching it live. Or if you are watching it live, do us a favour and hit that like button. It certainly lets us know that you enjoy the content. Also, be sure to subscribe to our social media channels to make sure that you don't miss any of the news, events and going on. We currently have some votes going on for our new track day series that is going to be featuring throughout the rest of lockdown and hopefully towards the end of the year. And of course, if you're watching this with a PlayStation and you want to get involved in some online clean community sim racing, then head on over to our website. It's www.fluxmotorsport.com, and you'll find all of the information about what we do and how to join us on the website. Just click the link, download Discord for free, and you'll be greeted by us after you fill in just a little bit of personal information. I look forward to seeing you there. So let's have a look back over to this battle between 4th and 5th place. Looks as though Object has now got the jump on Kovkarl. So Kovkarl falls back into 4th place. These drivers are currently 21 seconds behind All U82, and Lucy Axon is rooting on All U82 at the moment. Currently in for, I think it's his first podium of the season. Just bringing up my results now, but pretty sure that yep, he's had 2 4th place finishes sandwiched in between a 9th and a 12th last time around. He had an absolute nightmare race at Long Beach after what was looking very, very good indeed. And if you haven't yet caught it, our race at Long Beach, you can watch the extended race, so the full live stream commentary, just by clicking on the touring car channel within our YouTube page, or we have got a highlight video coming very shortly, should be uploaded later on tonight, with a 15-minute roundup of that one. It was action-packed, so Giacomo is definitely going to have his work cut out to separate that into 15 minutes. And we can see there, it looks as though the difference between Object and Kovkar at the moment appears to be track limit breaches and slowdown penalties issued by the virtual race steward. As we see there, just coming out of the second to last corner, Kovkar just moving to one side and allowing Object through, so that does indicate a slowdown. In fact, if we bring up the timing boards at the moment, we can have a look at the penalties that have been dished out for not slowing down. J46 Dyson with 1 second, and that could be very, very crucial, as he currently sits 1.4 seconds behind the race leader. Object also has a 1 second penalty, so Kovkar in theory is in 4th place provisionally at the moment. TTV Giacomo with 2 seconds, Stoltz with a second, T-Scott with 2 seconds, Luke Snipes with 1 second, and then Jack de Menzies with a big 8-second penalty at the moment. Back on over to our leaders right now, so it's the console leading to J46 Dyson, as it has been for a big proportion of this race up until Jack de Menzies took himself out. And J46 Dyson currently 1.1 seconds behind the pink race leader as it stands. Remember though, folks, he does have a 1 second penalty to be added on at the end of this race. The battle between Object and Kovkar continues to rage on, but looks as though we've got a bit of a battle going on back here between Jack de Menzies and Luke Snipes. You can see the difference in lap times, about 5 seconds Jack de Menzies has got ahead of him, and it looks as though it's going to be a nice easy move up the inside of turn 5. And that is job done from Jack de Menzies. Yet another place gained, and 10th place as it stands. Does look as though we've lost Old Smokey from the mix, so first retirement here, and that is going to see him out of the points. Definitely going to hurt his chances of a strong finish. It's his second DNF of the season as well, so that's going to see him drop right down the leaderboards. You see Luke Snipes there getting the entrance to the corkscrew all sorts of wrong. Did well to actually hold it on together. When you catch so much on the inside, it does want to spit you over to the right hand side of the course. And J46 Dyson has taken the lead from the console. Seen our first change in leadership here in the second half of this season for the first time in race 5. The console has basically got himself ahead throughout most of these laps. Throughout most, in fact all of the races, and then just sustained it all the way through to the second half. Now remember, J46 Dyson has a 1 second penalty, whereas the console doesn't have any, so he's going to have to try and make sure that he gains over 1 second come the end of this 14 minutes and 35 seconds that remain inside the session. Holding on to the slipstream at the moment, and I'm starting to think that the console's brand new fluffy socks that he's been boasting about may well have hindered or jinxed his run of form here. He's going to be desperate to try and take that position back, if not just sit within the slipstream here, just to make sure he gets that crucial 5th race victory. So just going through at the moment, just trying to get hold of the current spread of lap times, and it looks as though the console takes it through on the Rahal straight. Great move from him, really confident on his way up into the corkscrew, and it looks as though reset button comes to play here, and J46 Dyson's got it all to do. Look at the confidence that J46 Dyson takes that second to last corner with through turn 10. It really is bold indeed, and he just has to take some evasive manoeuvres there to avoid the rear of the console. And it looks as though he's got a good drive on him up into the Andretti hairpin, looking for the inside line. He's going to be late onto the brakes. He's going to have to fall back into line, and he misses out on the cutback as well, just to avoid the console's move. But great racing between these two. Now it looks as though J46 Dyson is finally starting to find a little bit of luck in his racing. Has finished very well indeed in the last couple of races. 7th in Bannock Bray, finished 8th in the Algarve GP, but then finishing 3rd and 4th in Daytona and Long Beach. and that's been enough to get him up into third place in the standings, and he'll be making big gains on Jack de Menzies come the end of this race if it finishes as it does. Looks as though Kovkarl and Object have just traded place again. Kovkarl has just taken that fourth place, but this battle rages on between these two. 12 minutes and 20 seconds remaining inside this battle, and I'm pretty sure that it's not over yet. We'll continue to keep an eye out on the leaders up on the left-hand side of your screen, but let's follow this battle going on for a little bit now, just to see how this one progresses. So just looking ahead into next week here at in the Touring Car Championship, it's the final race of America. In this race, we actually go over to the Dubai Autodrome International Circuit for next Tuesday's race. That will be week 5 in the touring cars, and then in week 7 it's Rapuna Park in New Zealand, and then the final race of the season takes us down to the world famous Bathurst Mount Panorama circuit. That is going to be one, if you are going to make sure you stick about for at least one full race of this season, do make sure that is the last race of the season around Bathurst. That's coming to you live and direct on the 15th of December, so set your dates now. You do not want to miss that one. Back over to the leaders at the moment. The console continues to lead up into lap 23. He's got almost 8 tenths ahead of J46 Dyson. So he's managed to build upon his lead, and it shows within that last lap time. He made almost 8 tenths up on him. Does look as though Jack Menzies is going to struggle to maybe gain another position. He's currently lapping 1 or so seconds quicker than T. Scott, but he sits almost 6 seconds back at the moment. A little mistake there into the final turn. That's going to allow J46 Dyson up on the inside. He currently sits in first position. He's going to have to move his way over to the left-hand side to get the ultimate line, and there it is. Falls back in line now, the console, and he looks to do him under braking. Big brave move in the brakes there, and absolutely nailed it. Well done, the console. Takes that position back with authority there into turn 2 through the Andretti hairpin. Fantastic move indeed, and it's one to be said that you can sometimes take a position through positioning through a corner, but sometimes just being brave on the brakes and knowing the limitations of the car can really steep you through. 9 minutes and 40 seconds remain in this battle, and what a battle it's been. So just trying to keep my eye out on the rest of the drivers. Looks as though the battle between Kovkarl and Object has since died down a little bit. Kovkarl's managed to get himself around about 1.5 seconds or so. That looks as though that might be over with at the moment. We'll just keep our eye out on Kovkarl, see whether or not we can see any penalties flashing up, usually indicated by a red number on the left-hand side, and that will indicate a potential slowdown. Looks as though J46 Dyson has just got himself a slowdown coming out of the final turn, and that gives the console around about 1 second lead now in the split times with 8 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. That is going to be around about 4, maybe even 5 laps here at Laguna Seca. So we're going to be taking it up to around about 30 laps, which sounds about right for 45 minutes of action. Looks as though we have only got one retirement in the form of Old Smoky, so it's currently the console leading to J46 Dyson. As we well know, All U82 is running nice and smoothly in third. He's got 27 seconds ahead of Kovkarl and Object at the moment. He is, however, 5 seconds back, so it doesn't look as though he's going to be able to build upon that third place. Then we've got TTV Giacomo in 6th place, holding up ahead of Casey Redwood at the moment. Casey Redwood finally getting in a good finish here, very accomplished. GT Sport driver. Looks as though he's just making that transition into Project Cars 2 and he's starting to find his feet with it a little bit. Stoltz in 8th place with T-Scott in 9th. The two South African teammates there in 8th and 9th position, and then Jack de Menzies after that big accident currently in 10th place. However, it does look as though he's just about to move up the inside of T-Scott. I thought he was going to be out of reach, but he's obviously done well as we see him pulling out the 1 minute 29 laps here. He's going to do him under braking into the Andretti hairpin, and that is a move nicely done ahead of the 4C Motorsport car of T-Scott. So into 9th place now for Jack de Menzies as he continues his recovery drive. Just behind these drivers, we have also got Luke Snipes and Green Gaming at the moment. And they're going to make up the back of the grid. Looks as though J46 Dyson has slipped yet another second down to the console. It's now sitting at around about 2 seconds or so, depending on which corner these guys are coming up to. So it looks to be a comfortable lead as we see the hammer being released by the console. We can see there almost 1.7 seconds quicker that last lap around, which is significant in building up a comfortable lead in the final stages of this race. He's been got the timing balls. Doesn't look as though there's much in the way of penalties. However, Jack de Menzies' penalty is going to be significant unless he can build upon that lead ahead of T-Scott at the moment. He's currently got a 12-second penalty. T-Scott himself has got 2 seconds worth, so that's going to be a negative of 10. And he currently sits, 3 seconds ahead of him. So he's got 7 seconds to make up in the final stages here, and we can just see him building upon him. That is Jack de Menzies in the green car just moving across. So meanwhile, let's have a little look over here. Looks as though the console may have made a mistake coming into the Andretti hairpin. That's allowed J46 Dyson now to be within the 2.5 stage. So this battle not over between the two drivers yet. Just having a look over to the console's telemetry figures. You can't get this really on your screen, but he's currently looking at about 56% tyre wear on the front, and temperatures are looking almost ideal at the moment. Go over to Dyson, and looks as though just making a bit of a mistake coming out of there. He does well to hold it on, doesn't lose much momentum. Meanwhile, All You 82 has really turned it up another notch as we go into the cockpit with Al Axon. Easy Axon will be pleased. He's certainly applying pressure here, and he might just get onto the back of this pack in the final 4.5 minutes and might be able to make his presence known, might even be able to collect up a second or even first place depending on how bold he's feeling. Let's stick inside the car at the moment with him and let's see what can be made on this next lap around. Does look as though we've got some back markers coming up as well. That's going to make it even more interesting. Lap 28 begins here at Laguna Seca. It looks as though Al Axon's losing a little bit of time coming out of the final turn. We've seen this a couple of times through. Maybe just needs to work on that for the next time that Laguna Seca's on there. Because we've just seen him drop maybe 3 or so tenths off the rest of these cars. Let's bring up the split times just so I can have a look what there was last time around. Yeah, so it is definitely coming out in that final turn. Split times are actually to the thousandth of a second equal between J46 Dyson and All You 82 that last time around. Both drivers setting a 31.378. So matching each other to the very Rizzler paper of one another. Meanwhile, looks as though another mistake from the console. We see J46 Dyson going 4 tenths quicker in the second sector this time around, and he's now under pressure from the Scotsman. The Scotsman moves up over to the outside line. He's going to have to try and do it early in the brakes and turning soon. It looks as though the console just shuts that door on him. And we can see their big lock-up on the left-hand side from All You 82. Manages to find himself so much quicker in the third sector than both of these drivers at the moment. Al Axon is actually able to pull up nearly 1.1 second ahead of the console in the final sector. It does look as though he just loses so much time just on that final turn, so I wonder what could happen if he just managed to get that final turn nailed. So 2 minutes and 15 seconds remain. Looks as though there's going to be another lap following this one. This looks as though it's the second to last lap of this evening's session, and what a session it's been. There's been action all over the track, and there still is action all over the track. Looks as though Stoltz is now applying pressure to Casey Redwood for 6th position. Let's have a quick look over to that one at the moment. Still looking like Stoltz is out of reach of the Robster Motorsport of Casey Redwood. Meanwhile, the console is under more pressure from J46 Dyson. All You 82 is now 1.5 seconds behind the leader, so not too far away at all, and this is looking very tasty into the final lap. Let's go on board into the cockpit of All You 82 at the moment. That is a back marker ahead. In fact, I think that might be the back marker of T. Scott in the 4C Motorsport livery. We should see T. Scott moving alongside here, maybe just running a little bit deep into turn 2, into the hairpin. See, little move up there, corrective braking from J46 Dyson just to try and counteract. It looks as though he's going to have to hold it all off. This is going to be the final lap, so it is going to be checkered flag the next time that these guys cross the line. So if J46 is going to make his move, he's going to have to make it pretty soon. There's only half a lap to go, and it looks as though the console is still running pretty smoothly at the moment. That is T. Scott ahead of him, I believe. In fact, it might even be Stoltz that's ahead of him there. It might be Casey Redwood I just caught a glimpse of ahead. And as the console moves ahead of the back marker, this puts J46 into a really nasty position now where he has to try and get through him. And I think that might have just fallen into the console's lap there, nice and comfortably. We see the back marker move across, but the leader's already been gained indeed. So as the console comes around the final corner for the final time, it's going to be 5 back-to-back race victories for the pink car, and a great run indeed. Well done, J46 Dyson, for challenging him, but All You 82 actually falls into second place once the penalties have been applied. Kovkar looks as though he's going to have done enough for 4th position when he comes across the line. He's quite a way back at the moment, just coming around the corkscrew here, but a good run from Kovkar, and it will be a well-deserved 4th place. We've seen him being able to gain around about 4 seconds ahead of Object, but he had a notable battle throughout most of that race indeed. Casey Redwood looks as though he's also going to get another 6th place finish for this season in the touring cars, with TTV Giacomo also running pretty comfortably now in 7th position. So Kovkar comes across the line. Object also coming across the line now, just behind. So Casey Redwood now coming around the bend, the final bend. And good running from the number 62 Horbsner Automotive. Plenty to build upon indeed for Casey Redwood. We've seen a bit of a mixed bag of finishes. He finished 6th in the Bannock Bray race 1, but then a brace of 10ths in the Algarve and Daytona. A 5th place it was at Long Beach, and now a 6th place finish around Laguna Seca. Giacomo has since crossed the line in 8th position. Looks as though T. Scott has also crossed the line a little bit earlier on. Rick Snipes also has, and Green Gaming comes across the line to make up the last driver in our grid. So here it is, the final race positions. The console in first place with All You 82 in second in the end, thanks to a 2-second penalty applied to J46 Dyson, sees him drop down into third place on the podium. Kofkarl in fourth place with Object in fifth. Great battle from them, with Casey Redwood in sixth place and Giacomo in seventh. Eighth place is Jack Demenzies with T. Scott following up in ninth. Luke Snipes in 10th place with Green Gaming in 11th. And Stoltz ends up with a retirement, it seems, in the end. I'm not sure whether or not that is correct. I think he did actually register, so it will just be 12th place, it seems, from Stoltz, with Old Smoky retiring after lap 14. So that is our fifth round of the touring cars done and dusted. If you want to see the standings, then be sure to check us out on our social media page. Remember to give that a follow, depending on whether or not you're a Twitter, Facebook or Instagram user. And of course, make sure that you subscribe to the channel to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the GT1 uploads or the highlight videos that will soon be to follow in both the touring car race at Long Beach and the GT3 race at Long Beach that happened on Sunday. Other than that, all I can do is look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Remember, we'll be live on Sunday with the console in the box for round 5 of the GT3 Championship around Sonoma Raceway. But you'll be able to catch up with the GT1 action brought to you by Lecky 2000, and that race taking place on Thursday. Other than that, I've been Murphy, and it's been a fantastic day for Laguna Seca. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your week ahead, and we'll speak to you all very, very soon. Take care and have a good week.